Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, everybody. I am Tom Walton, joined by my current co-host, John Weik, in a continuation of our turkey hunting series here, which we're recording this early, but you all will be listening to it in March following our bear hunting series. And if you want to know about spring bear hunting, ought to probably go back in time there in your podcast list and listen to the episodes out of February where we talked all about bear hunting. But now we are on to the thunder chicken. Isn't that what we call them, right, John? Thunder chicken, God. Something like that?
Boy, you're starting off with a bang, aren't you, buddy?
You knew it was going to happen.
I opened up a can of worms today, didn't I?
Yeah, so we are going to talk thunder chickens, turkeys, gobblers, toms, longbeards, you name it. We're going to talk about them today. That's what we've been covering all month this month. And today I'm really excited because we got Keith from Salt Creek Ammunition, Salt Creek Custom Ammunition.
Yeah, baby.
And one of the reasons I'm excited is not just because Keith is an ammunition producer and an expert on the topic, but I'm excited because Keith has been an absolute huge supporter of all of the work that John and I have done with veterans and first responders and our nonprofit stuff. Keith just coming in year after year, even with rough times in the TSS world, and making sure that our veteran hunters and our youth hunters have had ammo for their hunting experiences with us. Keith, I just want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for all of that, and thank you for your time tonight, man.
No, it's no problem at all. Thanks for letting me be a part of your guys' setup. I mean, you guys do some great stuff, and yeah, just happy to be a part of it.
Well, we're happy to have you back, and I'm so glad I connected with you years ago.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And I mean, like I said, one of these days we need to get you out to be a part of one of those events, or just to come hunt with us, because Salt Creek has been a staple at, I mean, almost all of our turkey camps, right? I mean, your name has always been at those camps. So we're excited to have you on, man. But you make ammunition, but there's going to be more to you than that. So let's dive in for the listeners, and love to hear a little bit of your background, you know, maybe where you grew up, where you live, and how you got into the hunting.
Yeah. Who is Salt Creek?
I mean, born and raised in Utah, mainly grew up waterfowl hunting, wing shooting, just dove hunting, being a part of pheasant clubs, waterfowl hunting off of the Great Salt Lake in those marshlands. It's been, traditionally, it's like some of the best duck hunting in the country. A little rougher these times, with the migrations and the weather and everything like that. But that's what I've done for my whole life. Didn't get into turkey hunting until maybe 10 or 12 years ago. I mean, I don't know why. I just never grew up doing it. My dad wasn't ever into it. And then, we just wanted to try something different, and carrying a shotgun in spring sounded pretty cool. So
heck yeah.
But yeah.
Well, why don't you share with us so you said, it's been quite a while you've been turkey hunting, so you've had to have some stories. So why don't you share with us like maybe a highlight turkey hunt or story out of that experience?
Can I poke in there just before we go any deeper in that direction real quick? I mean, you have a military background too or something, don't you?
Nope. I don't.
I thought there was something else in the background that got you into loading ammo or...
Well, no, I've been loading ammunition in the industry pretty much since I got out of college, around the same time as turkey hunting. Started off in the reman ammunition sector, so basically reloads on the cheap. I used to work for a company doing their grunt work and stuff like that, and it kind of put an interest in me. I was going to school. I was going to do law enforcement, which made me think about you, Tom. Yeah, I didn't want to do law enforcement after going on ride-alongs and doing different things, so I got hooked up. Just, it's funny, like, you think about colleges nowadays, you don't think you'd see a flyer looking for people to get hired on at an ammunition company, but that's where I found the ad for that job. Anyways, I did that, and then eventually moved up to where I'm at now, working for Barnes Bullets. Worked there in the press department, pressing out bullets, and then moved up to the lab And the lab was probably my favorite, doing all the testing, all the ballistic stuff. So I tried to get them to do turkey stuff there, and they weren't super interested. So thought I'd do it on my own.
I'm glad you did.
Does Barnes have any shotgun line? I mean, or because they're pretty well rifle, big game stuff.
Yeah, they have, because they're big game oriented. They are primarily, anyways, they do tactical stuff, but they have a shotgun slug. It's called their Barnes Expander.
Yeah.
It's probably, at least in the 20 gauge variant, I think it's probably one of the more sought after products that they produce for shots, for the slugs. So
gotcha.
That's what they do. So,
and how did that transition into you starting to load shotgun ammo on your own?
Just duck hunting and also turkey hunting and other things. I had a desire to try to get things to work better for me. Not going to try to, crap on the industry too bad, but it's, you guys have already experienced this, but a hand load compared to a factory load is pretty night and day difference. Like, that's a pretty distinguishable difference there. So that's what drove me. I just added performance, the ability to exceed distances and what I was traditionally and what we were used to doing. So I just wanted it to be better. So,
well, you nailed that for sure.
No doubt.
Try. It could always be better, right?
Yeah. Well, that's always the advantage. I know the duck hunters are loving you, and the geese hunters too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It helps. The TSS helps. It's kind of hard. I always say this. I don't, mean to be self-deprecating, but TSS is kind of hard to mess up.
Yeah.
It's so dense and it's just so magical. It's really hard to, I don't know, at least in my opinion, it's kind of hard to mess it up.
But I mean,
right.
we've definitely learned a lot. I did so much shooting last year, which I get to put that video out, but I had tons of content and playing with lots of different ammunition combinations. And you came up with some killer combinations for that 28 gauge. The balance in that load is just epic with the 8.9 and the 9.10.
Yeah. Well, it was your testing and your feedback that made me just settle on the 1.5 ounces, 2 3/4. That's what I have as far as the offerings for 28 gauge this year. So it's paired your performance in the field and experience with that load paired with the fact that TSS is almost unobtainable at this point. So if I'm going to put something into a load, it better be the best and not overdoing it as far as just saturating the product line.
It was pretty epic. I shot through some good brush when needed.
Yeah. We've got a lot of 28 gauge Salt Creek turkey kills on video last year for sure. So, and even with that, just kind of in that development stage last year with some of that. One of the things that, and really the year before too, because this will be the third season we've been running that 28 gauge. And just with the custom ammunition that you put out too, is the customer service side of things, right? I mean, you're very responsive to the feedback, and you're just not going to get that with a large company. And it's mainly because it's just different arenas that you're in, right? And different capabilities. I mean, people looking like, should I spend the money and go to a custom ammo maker? That right there, the customer service, that one-on-one contact is to me is valuable right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I want to come circle back to some of the TSS stuff, but before we move on, I still want to just a little bit more getting to know you. Circle back to that story, man. Like, let's hear a good hunting story from you in the woods with turkeys.
I've got more experience getting burned by turkeys than I do actually killing them. So, no, I mean, one of my favorite hunts was my first one, and it was a fall hunt on my buddy's private land. It was I guess it wasn't my first turkey hunt, lots of learning and education going into the first couple of years. But my favorite hunt was when my buddy invited me on his family's property and, just to cull off some of the hens and the jakes and stuff like that. But he put me basically right at the bottom of their roost.
Okay, great.
I walk in this little 4-wheeler trail, this little clearing surrounded by trees, and he's like, "You'll know when you get there." I'm like, "Okay." I'm just totally blind. I've never been at this property. It's completely dark. I'm just walking in there, and then I hear something. I stop. I look around, and like you could just barely start to see, like the sun was starting to barely come up. You could just see just like the moonlight probably is all it was. But there were just, I don't know, I think I sat down and I counted. There was probably 80 to 100 birds. just all in these trees around me. Like they were right on top of me. Like I sat at the base of this tree, they were above me. So
like, no calling needed there, huh?
No, not at all. But no, I mean that we were successful. We shot a few birds, but it was more cool just to see kind of how turkeys operate, I guess. Like I got to see like the mother hen basically wake up and just fly all over the trees and just wake everybody up. Like I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
so did it come down on the ground? Was it a schroeder?
Oh yeah, no, it was chaos. Like my brother was in a totally different area where they were all flying down to, and yeah, he let him rip. So he got a couple hens right off the bat. But later that night, I went to the same spot and to shoot a couple. So, nice. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, there was just tons and tons of birds. So
super cool.
Yeah, I think being able to watch birds in the roost, whether it's before they fly down, fly up, is pretty awesome. Those encounters with the wildlife and the animal you're pursuing is one of the reasons why it's fun, right? So what a good experience.
For sure. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, hey everybody, I just want to take a quick break to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. And to thank you today, I want to offer you a discount at 360 Sportsman. Head over to sportsman.org now and use promo code PF15. That is PF15 to get 15% off your subscription to any of their master classes listed on the website. You can learn anything over there to improve your skills at hunting, fishing, trapping, snowmobiling. There's going to be first aid classes up there. They've got all kinds of stuff. There's even a how to build a house class coming. So anything you want to learn related to the outdoors or just making yourself a more knowledgeable human being, head over to 360sportsman.org. Use promo code PF to get 15% off any of their master classes. Want to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show. Let's dive into some of the science behind what you do, for lack of better terms. I don't know if it's really how scientific you get, but what goes into a custom load for shotgun, or I say custom, but I mean just a hand load. What you're doing, what goes into the process when you decide you want to make a new 28 gauge, 12 gauge, whatever it is. What process do you go through to perfect that and to make that load successful?
A lot of what I've done, like you've seen some of the offerings, like they're totally off the wall, like super heavy for the gauge that I was going into. So like I've tried to have something super heavy in every gauge, at least in the 20, 28, 12s, even 10 gauge. But yeah, I just try to separate myself in that way, try to be different. And I think just going heavier and kind of pushing the limits that way is kind of fun. But like I said, with the TSS availability, it's kind of changed. I want to more focus on what makes sense instead of just trying to do crazy off the wall fun stuff like that. So like 3 ounces in a 10 gauge is kind of nonsensical in a lot of ways, but it's fun and it obviously works. But so that kind of brings it to the 28 gauge again, where you guys had so much experience with it and feedback, comparing it to other loads, other payloads, stuff like that.
Yeah. And other guns too. I mean,
the guns as well, that's a huge thing with the 28. They can be pretty finicky.
Yep. Wearing that up front, it really makes a huge difference, taking the time to compare chokes with ammo loads.
Yeah, that's something I wish I could be able to do, is own, like everybody. I think we'd want to own like every gun, but
yeah,
kind of not possible. That's why I like to rely on feedback from people that have different platforms and different weapon platforms.
Well, what goes into the shell that contributes to pattern, right? I mean, that's what everybody in turkey and duck hunting's worried about is the pattern that the gun and the shell combined produce. So what is it within the ammo? How do you control that from the ammo maker standpoint?
I don't know, just through testing, and a lot of the information you can actually glean off the internet, but a lot of it just comes from testing and just experience in what components work, especially the wads. At least, I don't know, I have my favorite, like, kind of pet wads that I like to use for certain things. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's really hard to mess up a TSS load. It's really just powder, wad, shot, buffer, and then, a roll or a fold crimp. Just trying to use the best components possible. A lot of times it can go into, and this is probably where you're going to see the difference in a lot of the like major factory loads, is they're not going to go the extra mile to, add the correct amount of buffer every single time, the exact powder charges, a filler wad or a Mylar wrap where it's needed, stuff like that. Like little minor things, like little minor details can make all the difference. So that's what you're getting with the custom load is a little more extra, I don't want to say effort, but just a little more thought into what's going into it. Instead of just like, I feel like on a mass, like at least in my experience, like loading ammunition professionally in bigger companies, the goal is to, how can we make it faster and cheaper? And the performance isn't necessarily always in their forethought. So here, I'm not racing to the bottom. I'm not trying to overproduce stuff and just make it just to make it. Like I want to make it to work. So, and it's a lot easier with certain gauges, like the 28 gauge. There's only a couple wads you could actually use for TSS that would actually do what you want it to do. So it's basically just playing with payloads at that point and powder charges and how those relation to each other and patterning.
Does a crimp really make that big of a difference from what you've seen so far?
It can.
The types, the way it's done?
Yeah, it can, depending on the powder charge, depending on the powder type, how fast it combusts upon initial ignition can play a factor in how something patterns downrange. There's like a primer powder relationship that goes into patterning that a lot of people don't know about. So you could have the same payload, you could have everything the same, but if your powder can make the difference in how that shot shell performs.
Right.
And is that like because of burn rates?
Burn rates, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Typically lower pressured ammunition patterns better. Yeah. As far as that translates in the turkey world, a really slow burn rate powder that doesn't combust super fast initially, that has a gradual, more gentle ignition down the bore is typically better. So
I'll agree with that. I've done some that weren't that, and it really shows.
Yeah. So
for sure. Gotcha. So like hot or low doesn't always mean better when it comes to patterns.
Yeah. It's not always the case. And there's different thought processes into different ammunition. So like for duck hunting, it's that, you're trying to get the patterns right, but you also have to consider cold weather ignition and functioning in a semi-automatic shotgun in cold. But yeah, generally lower pressured ammunition patterns better. Luckily, that's really what you get in a lot of cases with turkey ammunition anyway, with the powder selections that you have.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And, John, I think since I've been hunting with you, you've mentioned over and over again, like, hey, you don't need that Magnum shell, right?
Yeah.
People want to go buy the big 3+ inch 12 gauge shells, and that doesn't necessarily produce a better pattern. Sometimes it can produce a worse pattern. And I think we tend to get stuck on the knockdown power, quote unquote, side of things. Well, I need knockdown power, so that's why I carry the biggest possible 12 gauge round that I can to go hunt turkeys. And I think there's something to power, right, with range and penetration, but at the same time, I would guess that you would tell me TSS is the kind of the great equalizer when it comes to that.
It is really what it comes down to in shotgunning. And I think you see this, it's a new phase coming into at least the waterfowl world, but turkey ammunition generally isn't super fast. I think the fastest I've seen for turkey for some crazy reason was like 1,400 feet per second.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me when I'm trying to keep my shot string tight, meaning short, and then my pattern's consistent. Speed doesn't do that for you in any way, shape, or form. Especially with like the more malleable shot types like lead. It was like a lead 1,400 feet per second load. It's like that's a pheasant load, but not even a good pheasant load. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go into patterning other than just choke and your shotgun and stuff like that. There's a lot more consideration behind it on the manufacturing end.
Yeah, definitely. When I got numerous 12 gauges and I've played around with everything back in the day, and I hated the patterns in a 3.5 inch shell. It was absolutely horrible, to be honest. And switching over and working with you, and you building me that 2 3/4 number 9 TSS, the patterns are so much more forgiving. When I say forgiving, it's different for everywhere you hunt, but it's a nice full count without a lot of space in it. And that 10-inch circle all the way out, it's just drastically better. So a lot of people say like, well, I got to get to 3.5 inch. So I definitely don't want to miss. So I'm like, well, you might miss more, actually, to be honest with you. You put that 2 3/4 inch from Keith and you'll fill in some holes in a stunning pattern out there.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing, I mean, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but the only thing that should have a 3.5 inch, the only thing that should have a 3.5 inch length is a 10 gauge. Anybody that's spent a lot of time behind a 12 gauge on the patterning board will tell you that a 3.5 inch doesn't really get you much.
That's right. Except the sore shoulder, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not a guy that's like trying into the minimalist caliber, thing that's going on right now. A lot of people, trying to, I'm going to go elk hunting with a 223 and I'm, and all this stuff. And I'm not even going to get into that debate right now, but because that's a thing. And we're here to talk turkeys, and I'm not against using a lighter caliber that's, whether it's a rifle round that's got a heavy for caliber bullet and it's loaded properly and the ballistics and everything makes sense, man, and you're a good shot with that rifle, like I'm all about it. But I think that's kind of what it comes down to is it's nice when you get into the 28 gauge or you're shooting a 12 gauge and you're using that 2 3/4 inch shell. And like John said, you're not paying for it with the sore shoulder. It's fun to sit down and pattern and mess with it when you have rounds that don't just destroy your shoulder with whatever shotgun you're using, whether it's a 20, 12, 28. And the 28 is just really nice because I can sit there and pattern my semi-auto 28 for hours, and just enjoy shooting that gun. So I think there's a lot to be said to that too. And you're definitely, I think people are going to shoot those rounds, whether it's the 2 3/4 and a 12 or a 28 gauge, better than they would those big 3-inch plus Magnum shells.
Well, to give you an idea, it's all about pellet count and patterning. The ounce and a half load of anything really in 28 gauge or whatever, it has approximately 545 pellets of number 9. So it's like how many pellets do you really need to get the job done?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, you're talking, I've always kind of said this to people and it blows their minds when they're new to TSS, but it's like, well, what does this stuff do? What can I do? It's like, well, imagine you and your buddy had 2 3.5 inch 12 gauges or 10 gauges loaded with number 4s and you both shot the turkey at the same time. That's what you can shoot in 28 gauge, 2 3/4.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And essentially extend your range probably double. So
yeah. The lethal range. I mean, not just range, but
like not just, it's actually going to put them down. So
yeah,
this stuff is, it's like, shotgun steroids basically. So
I mean, you got all that weight with such a smaller diameter. The penetration is epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a good time. I mean, just like add on to those reasons, I'd like to ask both of you guys, if I'm the guy that comes up and says, man, I've been killing turkeys with lead, I've been killing them dead for 20 years with lead shot. Why do I want to go spend all this money on TSS? Keith, if you're talking to that fella at a sports show, what's your response to that going to be?
What is he shooting?
Oh, let's say he's shooting a 12 gauge. He's an old school dude. He's shooting a 12 gauge. And thinks that lead is the only thing he ever needs.
Well, good for him. Keep doing it.
I was waiting for that.
It's like it comes down to, I guess I don't know. Like if you're some like old timer or whatever, and you're just totally dialed in and you can kill them with lead, kill them with lead. If you like your setup and you like how how you hunt and where you hunt specifically, what's going on, don't change anything. The other thing I could try to do to convince that guy is just to say, you don't need a 12 gauge to kill turkeys anymore, like at all.
Yeah.
If he's standing there with his wife, it's like, you could try to talk her into buying another gun. And, it's like, it's a whole nother adventure. You know how fun it is. You can get your gun set up. You go on the market, you look for the gun, you set it up for turkeys, you get new chokes. I mean, that's what I love about turkey hunters, not because they buy a ton of ammo, but because they're just obsessed with gear and the next latest and greatest thing in a lot of ways. And
true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of fun having killed turkeys with 410. It's like, did that even just happen? Like you shoot it, it's like shooting I don't know, like the recoil, like you said, like a 223. And it's like the bird was like, 25, 30, 40, 50 yards. And I it's dead. And, I didn't have to get thrown up against a pine tree with a Magnum 12 gauge load. Like, that was kind of nice. So really the biggest benefit for TSS is that it can get the sub gauges to punch above their weight. It doesn't make the 12 gauge obsolete. You can do some crazy things with 12 gauge and 20 gauge, but you don't necessarily need it.
No, that makes total sense. And, I want to be clear too for anybody that's listening and is like, dang, Tom, you just ragged on me because I'm an old school 12 gauge guy. And that is not the case, man. I have no issue.
I'm right there with you guys out there too.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with either of them.
Yeah, go shoot I shot a 12 gauge before we got into these 28 gauges, and it took some convincing from John and our buddy Josh over at Mossberg to like, Tom, just trust us. Like, this 28 gauge is going to be the real deal. But yeah, I'm not by any means knocking on that. I agree with your statement. If you love your setup and what you're doing has been working for you and you're lethal, go have at it and keep killing turkeys the way you've been killing turkeys. And, but I do enjoy the conversation about TSS because it comes up, it's like, why would I spend all that money on TSS? And John, I think a lot of times I hear you say, well, why do you spend all that money on a good broadhead? Why do you spend all that money on a bunch of Barnes bullets and make sure that you have premium hunting ammunition? Is a turkey any less worthy of premium hunting ammunition than an elk or a duck or whatever your pursuit is? So, I don't know. What do you think about that, John?
I think you'll find somebody that's going to fit every possible category that we could all three of us come up with. And you have to take each individual person and talk to them based on your experience level and theirs at the same time. And a lot of guys are, they hunt one certain part of woods in the United States. Maybe he's been hunting the same basic hills and he'll never go anywhere else, in which case, what he's using for his type of range and conditions, it works perfectly fine. But, then I always say, are you going to stay there forever? Are you going to go somewhere else? And what about that one bird that comes in? Tom and I always talk about that one bird. And I've had a lot of those one birds that came in that if I had my older loads, I would have been hoping and praying he stepped out from behind that 3-inch diameter, hardened in the sun stick that he's now behind, where I could kill him with TSS. I'm hoping and praying he's going to step out so I can get a shot, or I can lean to the left and get it in there. But I've had, good friends that I've taken out, put a shell in their gun. I'm like, what do you got in your gun? They'll tell me, like, can I swap your shell out for you? Let me just give you one to start with, stick yours behind it. I'll pop one of Keith's in there. And I have a great video. It's a perfect example of a bird we worked for 3 hours to get in on. And, he was so hard just to get him in range. And when he stepped into range at 47 yards, he literally stopped dead because he knew. He's like, man, I want to see this thing. And he stopped dead behind, like I said, a tree-hardened piece of hardwood, sun-hardened piece of hardwood that stuck right out, literally about 3 inches in diameter. And my buddy's like, no shot. I'm like, you got a shot. Just pull the trigger. Trust me, pull the trigger. And I slow-moed that video. He hit that stick, exploded it in every direction, and the turkey dropped dead without flapping on the other side. I'm like, there's TSS right there.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
You just don't know when you're going to get that one bird or that one situation. And if you're a diehard turkey hunter, like a lot of us are, you're waiting all year to get out there and have that experience. I always say, look how much money we put into building each arrow. And no one argues about that. So if you're going to put that one shell in your gun for God knows what's coming around the corner, why not have your very best shot you can do? Yeah, that's my convincing aspect.
Yeah, and I would say, I don't, I hear whether it's big game or what we're talking about, people, well, you don't need to shoot them that far. You shouldn't be shooting them that far, or, why don't you just wait until you have the right shot? And I think this comes down to like the individual decision, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to like an elk or a big mule deer and I have, a shot opportunity on a trophy mule deer buck, and I have whatever caliber I have, but maybe he's quartered to me real hard and I only have a shot through his shoulder knuckle, right? Or a big bull elk, do you especially do you let that trophy trophy bull or elk walk, or are you going to take the shot? And I always kind of come back to, I know a lot of people, they can sit here and say, I'm waiting until that critter turns broadside. I'm going to, I'm not going to take that shot. Dude, when you're in the woods staring at that set of horns, like most everybody's going to take that shot. And if you really have the self-discipline to wait and you're going to hold off for that, to chance it, like good for you. But we all know that it's not like it is on TV all the time, right? That those animals don't just give you the perfect broadside shot. That big mule deer I shot a couple of years ago, he was on the move, man. When I finally got him to stop, he wasn't stopping broadside. I had a shoulder shot, and through the shoulder knuckle. I had a big bear that I had an awkward shot angle on, and he was on his way out of my life for good. And the reason I was able to take those shots and feel confident about them is because of the bullet construction. And I think that translates into TSS. And it's, you could let that bird walk, or like when we worked our butts off with Tony that one time, John, years ago, we had our buddy Tony out for one of our veterans camps, and we worked all dang day to get a bird into range for him. And then we worked this one bird after making a huge, we joked about it being an elk size move on a turkey. We worked that bird forever. Well, you did, John. I sat there and videoed, I think, and you called, and Tony held that shotgun up for an hour or more.
Yeah.
And at the very end, that
bird in history.
Slowest bird in history. And when that bird finally walked out at about 50, I think it was 57 yards is what I had ranged it at. I remember leaning over to you, and, John or Tony's just sitting there like not doing anything. And I'm like, come on, man, like this is your shot. And I'm thinking he's got TSS, like let's do this. And I lean over to you, knowing that Tony's going to hear him. I'm like, hey, you think he can make that shot with that TSS? You say, yes, he can. Boom. And that's all Tony needed to hear. That bird.
First I said, if he doesn't, I'm going to, because I'm aiming at this bird, and I know we both have number 7 TSS in with a good, really good 3-inch shell, and it's going to reach that bird and kill him dead for sure. And then Tony heard us talking to each other, and that bird didn't even flop. I mean,
nope.
Yeah.
And we got the video proof to show it. That was on video, right? And normally, do we need to shoot a bird that far away? Absolutely not. Usually, more often than not, we're shooting at birds in 20 and in. Yeah. I mean, but it's pretty awesome when you have the chance after working so hard all day, and a guy like Tony who came from out of state, and that was going to be his chance to hunt that day. That was it. He was a camp volunteer. He wasn't going to be hunting the rest of the trip. So it's really thanks to that capability that the ammo gave him that he got an opportunity to take a bird on that trip. And that's to this day the last turkey he's taken. So we need to get him back out.
He was dumbfounded because he's like, I can't believe you guys want me to shoot at this distance. And he wasn't as familiar with the patterning that we had done over the time. And that's why we put a 7 in there personally, because I knew where we were going, and I knew there was likelihood that we may be shooting like that. And knowing what it does, and I'm shooting into steel. I've shot into a lot of steel intentionally just to see what it's capable of doing at yardage out to 60. And man, I know super hardened industrial drums have buckled so bad. I'm like, that's a lot of penetration, man. Or there's holes too. I mean, it's crazy. So TSS.
No, 7s are one of my favorite shot sizes, just kind of across the board.
Yep.
I've seen 7s penetrate the whole length of a turkey.
Oh, yeah.
Probably. I mean, I'm talking, may or may not have shot like wing shot a turkey off of a ravine, but, like a pheasant hunting shot, you know how hard it is to take pheasants down because you're shooting through the back end, through all the feathers, all the guts. Mm-hmm. I mean, we found my brother shot the first time, missed because the pattern was so dang tight, shot again. By the time he connected, it was, I don't know how far. I can't, I'd be guessing, having wing shot, my whole life. It's, maybe 50, 60 yards. And we were pulling pellets off the front end of the breast, and there were pass-throughs. So it's pretty mean stuff.
That's wild. Yeah. That just reminds me of a goose hunt I was doing with my cousin that came to visit he's in the Air Force. He came out to visit. He's killed a couple of three or four turkeys with Salt Creek ammo now, because he's come out to one of the veterans camps and comes out and hunts with me. But we would a goose hunt one time, and man, this goose, and when I say goose hunt, it's not like we set out decoys and did it right. We went kayaking and tried to paddle in close to geese and hope we get a shot. But he takes a shot at this goose that's like way far away, and he's not a waterfowler, doesn't really know, like, I'm trying to kind of coach him along, and I'm a novice waterfowler. Obviously, you could tell by the way we're waterfowl hunting that day. I didn't think like any bird had gotten hit, and especially the one that he last took a shot at. I was like, that bird was way too far away. I didn't even see it drop, but all of a sudden I see something floating in the lake. We paddle over there, and it's that goose that he shot at, and the thing was ridiculously far. And I'm telling you, there was one TSS pellet that made it into that goose. There was no other holes, damage, anything. One pellet made it in and penetrated and killed that goose straight dead. I remember thinking, like, dude, maybe we don't want to eat this. Is it sick? And then I finally, like, did we scare it to death? Did it just die and we just found a dead goose? And then I finally found the one shotgun pellet in it. So yeah, man, it's good stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I think in some ways we kind of unnecessarily limit ourselves for the sake of, for a lack of better term, like the romance of the hunt. Like we want to get him in close, and that's understandable. We should try to get him as close and make as clean of a kill as possible. But I think TSS has changed. Obviously the lethal range, it's like we've been in situations where they just sit there and dance outside of decoys, and it's like, okay, It's been 15 minutes. Like, let's end it.
Yeah,
like it's 50, 60 yards. Like, we got to get out of here.
Right.
We've seen the show. He's not going to commit any further. It's like, you could always make that choice. Like you said, you can let him walk and you can try again the next day, but it's
up to you.
Yeah. And that's such a good point too, John. And then just even on that, what you're talking about, Keith, and whether it's ethical or not, like, okay, so you could check the ethical box in that. If you do what John just said and put it on paper and you know the distance, that longer shot, you know what it does. So to me, knowing that's a lethal shot when you take it, I think you check that box for efficacy, right? And then you're talking sportsman, is it sportsman-like or sporty? Was that, fair chase, whatever. If you're going to check that box, I would put that up against is reaping. I mean, you want to really go down a rabbit hole, but is reaping ethical?
Oh, yeah.
Would you, is it more ethical to call him in and sit against a tree, take a little longer shot over those decoys when he's hung up, but a longer shot that you absolutely know your gun and ammo setup is capable of, no questions? Or are you going to be a reaper and get in even tighter? And I'm not here to say one or the other, but I think that just brings an interesting aspect into it.
Yeah, we don't want to make enemies with that one for sure. And I wouldn't try to, honestly. We all have our own opinions of what we think is my kind of hunt. And some people live in conditions where they might need to do that to even get close enough to a turkey to some degree, depending on conditions and openness areas. If it works for you, you enjoy it, you got your bird. You're only going to fill so many tags either way. So how you fill your tag, if that's how you enjoy it, so be it.
Yep. And I think that's exactly what I'm getting at, John. You just said it in a way that makes maybe a little better sense is, who are we to sit here and judge? It's just why I kind of avoid some of the caliber size debates. I love talking, bullet construction, maybe debate a little bit.
Sure.
But as far as like the caliber battle within big game hunting, it's, man, you do you and you do what you're good at, right? And, if you're a guy that's taking whatever caliber and you're killing every time lethally, and killing critters cleanly, ethically, good on you, man. If you're going out with a small caliber, but you're wounding a bunch of animals, maybe you need to reassess your situation and your setup or your skill level. If you're going out with same thing, you're going out with a 300 Win Mag, right? If you're wounding elk and losing them with a 300 Win Mag, man, you might need to check your setup and your skill level, right? So you got to do what you're comfortable with, proficient at, and like you said, John, what you enjoy. I think that's a huge part of it, man. And if you enjoy that challenge of the smaller caliber and waiting for the broadside shot, by all means, man. Like, I'm not here to tell you don't go do it. Good on you. It's why we hunt with bows. I kind of bring that into the caliber size thing too. Well, if you're so mad at that dude for hunting elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor, why do you hunt elk with a bow?
Yeah.
I almost guarantee you more elk have been lost with archery shots than they have 6.5 Creedmoors.
For sure.
Yeah. Big time.
For sure. Just talk to anybody that elk hunts or deer hunts with a bow. It's like half their stories are, tracking deer for miles and missing clean or all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's good with the TSS thing. I think we were all used to, and I think that's where the ethical standard was set, was by lead's maximum lethal range, which, I mean, lead has been the king for hunting forever. Like since, just after we stopped throwing sticks at stuff, pretty much.
True.
Well, it's like, you're used to poking a turkey in the eye at 10 feet or whatever. It's like anything past that seems ethical just because of your current modern kind of setup. So Yeah, I don't know how that's going to look in the future. If people are just going to get used to, maybe TSS will just go away completely. I don't know, but are people going to get used to the comfort that TSS gives them? Just are those standards going to be like, are our kids or our grandkids going to be, I can take 100-yard shot or whatever? Yeah, I think it's definitely changed, and I think it's for the better. Realistically, most people aren't going to be taking shots past 50 yards anyway. Even you could probably even argue outside of 30 yards, most turkeys are probably killed within 30 yards anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we said before, I think the nice thing about TSS in general is that you can get less recoil out of a sub gauge and not lose performance at all. I mean, that was probably one of the worst things about turkey hunting, besides getting burned a bunch, but it's getting slammed around, testing rounds, shooting them on paper. And then just, the brute force and recoil out of those rounds were just kind of horrible. So,
yeah,
I like that aspect.
Another reason
too.
for the 28 gauge.
Yeah. And even just, besides the shoulder saving aspect of it is the weight of the gun that you're carrying, right? And the balance of these 28 gauges. And man, John and I hunted this year. I mean, we always do hunt quite a bit together, but this year we did a few hunts where we had our 28 gauges. One day I was like, all right, man, I've killed a bunch of birds with my 28 gauge. Like, I'm going to bust out the old 12 gauge just for just a feel good nostalgic day. And I took my 12 gauge out, and that happened to be like one of our highest mile count, hottest days. It was a great day. It was an awesome, really cool adventure, but I don't think I didn't shoot a turkey until about 7:00 at night. And I could tell you, by the end of that day, man, I wanted to just sell that freaking 12 gauge shotgun and never carry it in the woods again. I'm just like, dude, this thing was heavy. Holding it up when you're sitting there in a setup, holding that 12 gauge up is like, and I probably sound like a sissy, man, but I'm spoiled rotten with my 28 gauge. Then you fast forward to, or actually I think it was prior to, but one of our other hunts this year we did was when James Harrison, and we talked about this on the last episode that John and I did with him. When James was out here calling for me, man, I was sitting there holding that daggone 28 gauge up for about 40 something minutes. And I could not have done that.
I think it was almost an hour on the video before you pulled your trigger. So
it was a long time. And I was very grateful for two things. One, that I had that lightweight, well-balanced 28 gauge. It made a huge difference in the ability to just sit there and be still and wait on these spooky birds. And then I was really grateful for TSS because that was a little bit of a longer shot in the timber. And the only thing I had was his head poking up over a log about like that. And it was perfect because that TSS made a half a circle pattern on the log and the rest of it went in his face. So
that was awesome.
Yeah. That's, I think, why I like it, is I like being able to have a gun that's more fun to carry around, and the recoil is nice. It's just I think it's a solid setup. I'm really happy with what TSS has done for those, like you said, those sub gauges. It would have to agree, man. That's probably where it makes its money.
For sure. No, I mean, my analytics on the sales, it's heavy on 410, 28, 20. We sell enough 12 and 10 gauge, sure, but it's like, I want to say 410 is probably the highest selling turkey load that I make, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the 410? We don't want to blow up any cans too hard, but I just want to hear from a builder's standpoint, shell wise.
With the right pattern, you can do 60 yards. With 10s, you could probably do 50. I wouldn't go much further than 50 with 10s, but with 9s, you could do 60 with the right pattern.
Crazy.
People have done it. Wild. I think people have probably done further, but really your pattern efficiency starts to slack off past 60 yards, or really past 50 yards. Pretty bad. So,
I mean, how hot can you make a 410 that's going to still hold a good pattern?
There's only so much shot you can stuff into a 410.
Yeah.
So, a lot of guys are doing 1 ounce loads, and there's nothing against. I have nothing against them. It's just, I do have something against them. The only thing I really have against it is how they're built. I don't want shot sitting above the wad.
Right.
That's going to damage your gun barrels. So, I mean, people can do whatever they want, but that's essentially how a lot of those 1 ounce loads are constructed. And really, you don't need much more than 7/8 anyway for the range that you're going to get with them.
Gotcha. And how many number 9s is in that?
About 320.
So you're still putting a whole lot of TSS pellets downrange at that point.
Yeah, I mean, compared to lead, just to give people an idea, because everyone's used to lead, 300. I mean, you'd have to go to 2.25 ounces of number 4 lead to even get close. So you're talking 12, like I said, 12 gauge 3.5 inch or 10 gauge 3.5 inch territory. So, and they were 10 gauge. Sorry, I'm on a different tab. 10 gauge 3.5 and 12 gauge 3.5 with number 4 was probably arguably as efficient as far as range. So,
right. Yeah.
The fact that you can get a 12 gauge 3.5 or 10 gauge 3.5 inch performance with lead in a package as small and nimble and as lighter recoil as a 410. I don't know if that's something, I mean, that's probably something people don't think about. It's like you could literally outshoot a 12 gauge and a 10 gauge with a 410 loaded with TSS.
Right.
And the gun weighs 4 pounds.
Yeah. Feels like you're carrying around a toy.
Yeah. And your ammo is lighter. It's like if you're a running and gunning kind of turkey hunter, like you guys are running through the woods and stuff, you're not sitting in one place in some blind on some private property. Like a 410 or a 28 is the way to go, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And then, if you want to get sporty too, one of the setups I actually really like, and I don't have one, and it's just really because one, I have a good setup. I really like that Mossberg, the SA28 that we're using, but I really do like some of these single shot setups too. And I mean, if you want to add some fair chase and some sportiness to your TSS setup and all that, and that's I think a good way to do it. And talk about, man, the lightweight, my friends and some of our buddies that have those single shot 410s, and I think we're going to have Pete Rogers come join us for a hunt, and hopefully he'll have his single shot 28 from CVA. I'm excited to see that thing. But I mean, those are lightweight guns, super lightweight guns, pretty cool setups.
One of the favorites for people is the Rossi.
Yeah, that's what Mike has, right?
That's the what Rossi Tuffy or the Turkey model single shot. It's so light.
Yeah,
it's nice he's got to hold too.
He's got that Rossi in 410 and in 20, and so
yeah.
They're cool. It's a good setup.
Pistol grip kind of handhold is kind of cool.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's a must on a turkey gun, is that pistol grip or something in that stock that allows you to have a pistol grip like angle for your wrist, man. That to me is that comfort level holding on a setup waiting for a turkey is way better than like that wing shooting traditional style shotgun.
That's where the thumb hole or the pistol grip really shines, and people don't realize that. It's like, well, when you're having to hold up, obviously, like you can get a lot heavier, but if you're even, it's like, well, hold up your arms for that long, like your arms are still going to get tired. Like you're holding up a chunk of metal, like your arms are going to get tired. Like they're going to get way more tired if you're just holding a traditional like Monte Carlo wing shooting type of stock. So
yep,
for sure.
And those
so
stocks have their place
on. I'm sorry. I was going to say, what's your opinion on a dad who's getting his 9-year-old, 10-year-old, maybe lightweight? He's getting out in the woods to do turkey hunting with them for the first time. Do you still think a 410 is a good place to start? Or do you think maybe a little bit more is better for kids that don't aim as well? I mean, I know I'm going to stir up a pot with this, but in my opinion, like a 410 is definitely an excellent turkey gun in the hands of an experienced turkey hunter. Sometimes I caution some of the dads a little bit. I'm like, I don't know, I started bigger than that because my kids definitely didn't miss when they shot too, just because I was able to get a pattern for them that I would call was more forgiving in a sense. Does that make sense? Any opinions on that?
Depends on the kid. Again, it depends on where they're hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if the kid can handle recoil, you can step it up to a 28 gauge. And I have a version of that 1.5 ounce load that shoots as light as a 410 anyway.
Yeah.
It's 900 feet per second, and you're really not losing a whole lot of energy at normal ranges with a drop of like 100 feet per second.
Sure.
If they can handle recoil and, just step them up to a 28 gauge, even a 20 gauge, like you could custom load 20. You could basically put anything in a 20 gauge. I could load it down to a 1/2 ounce, like realistically.
Yeah, seriously. And you can get the choke appropriately so that you open up the pattern maybe a little bit more, but still crazy lethal at a reasonable distance. And I don't know, it just seems safer sometimes, maybe for the kid.
One of the big trends right now is to shoot over-unders with 2 different barrels and 2 different loads, 2 different chokes, obviously.
Yeah.
But you like, I think the trend right now, like I've had a couple people figure this out, even with 28 gauge, they'll have like the bottom barrel loaded with like an improved cylinder choke with, obviously they've done the patterning work, but with some sort of load that's optimal for close range. It could even be just like a lead trap load because, 7.5 lead through an improved cylinder will shoot a turkey at 20, 25 yards.
Right.
Right. So if they're just totally depends on the situation. If it's like a variable situation where they don't know what they're going to get into, yeah, you could have a TSS load and choke for one of the barrels, but something for close range that's optimal for that.
Good point.
I think even one of the companies, I can't remember, it was in SHOT Show, they came up with a turkey over under, was it CVA? Can't remember who it was. It looked pretty cool though. It had the thumb hole, the thumb hole stock and the turkey camo and all that stuff. I can't remember the brand, but it looked pretty sweet. I think they did have it in 28 gauge as well. So
right, over and under, 2 different barrels or the same barrel? You mean?
Yeah, it was an over and under. So
I know Mossberg came out with that for sure.
Yeah, Mossberg has their I think it's their Eventide.
Yeah, the Eventide over and under 28 gauge.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
It is. I held it last year when I was out with the Mossberg guys, and I watched him take a bird, at a good distance. It was just impressive because he had it set up just like you're talking about with, one for distance and the other one for up close. So you had a choice. Pretty handy and nice balance too.
For sure.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. Hey, folks, just wanted to take a quick break from the show to talk about my most recent partnership with a good friend of mine, Jake Collier, and his company, One Outdoors. One Outdoors provides a trusted place to purchase outdoor experiences, gear, and services. They aim to positively impact people and the environment by donating 10% of all of their net profits to Restoration Outdoors, a nonprofit, which in turn invests in mental health and conservation. One Outdoors offers trips around the globe, whether you're interested in hunting in Africa or fishing in Alaska, Patagonia, and more. They can customize your outdoor experiences and beyond just hunting and fishing to whitewater rafting. You name it, folks. If you can dream it up in the outdoors, One Outdoors can help make that dream come true. And I'm proud to be partnering with them and consulting on trips and hunts. So if you're interested in booking a trip of a lifetime with One Outdoors, you can reach me or reach out to me at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. It's thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com, or you can contact me directly through Instagram, Facebook, you name it. But One Outdoors, folks, really excited to be working with these guys. So thank you very much for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show. One thing just to kind of circle back to like the science behind the shot or some of the, a lot of, I don't know if all listeners might actually understand, but when you talk about, I think they could put it together when you're talking about number of shot in the, 1 ounce load, but just break down the numbers behind a shotgun shell, when it comes to gauge, load, and stuff like that, as to, what we're talking about.
Like what traditional payloads are you looking for in each gauge?
Well, like what does it mean? So like when you say, like, what is a 1 ounce? When you say this is going to be a 1.5 ounce load, what is that 1.5 ounce referencing? Because I don't know if listeners know exactly whether it's the powder load we're talking about, or it's the shot load, or the weight of the shell. So when you're saying you're loading a 1.5 ounce load, what is that 1.5 ounce measuring?
Yeah, no, the payload is what it's measuring. So you're getting 1.5 ounces of shot. So I mean, some companies cheat and they add in the wad weight and the buffer and stuff like that. And they, but whenever I load anything, it's going to have exactly 1.5 ounces or 1 5/8 or 7/8 or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
So
1.5 28 gauge ounce, like the ones that we're using right now with Patterned Amazing, it's that much load exactly of the pellets. And what is the length of that 1.5?
Well, they're all the sub gauge stuff. Well, I mean, this 28 gauge is 2 3/4 inches. I mean, you could load it in 3-inch, but I mean, the thing about TSS is you really don't need 3-inch. You could get away with 2 3/4, especially in the sub gauges.
Right. And it's going to eject better too, right?
Yeah, it's just gonna open up the options for where you can, or what gun you can shoot it in. A lot of guns are only 2 3/4, so
makes sense.
Especially if you want to hunt with like one of the things. It's kind of a just a nostalgic thing, but people like to hunt with old guns. They'll have grandpa's old shotgun. It might be a single shot or an old A5 or an old Ithaca 37 or something like that. They're only chambered in 2 3/4.
Right.
So, but they still are able to shoot TSS, with a fixed full choke. Given the shot size, you're not going to damage that gun.
That was going to be my next question. So good answer without me asking. Well, just kind of moving on to, we had alluded a couple times that TSS is an issue. And that a lot of that just comes with supply due to tariffs and international stuff, and leaving the politics out of it.
Yeah.
Where's the industry at right now? And where are you at right now as far as TSS, and what are folks going to be expecting this year as far as finding TSS shells, and the cost of those shells? And what do you do if you can't find TSS?
Go fishing.
All right.
I don't know. You built some pretty cool loads last year with kind of a duplex thing, right?
Yeah, no. That's definitely, it's going to be kind of just trying to stretch the TSS that you can get as far as you can and still make it work for extended ranges. So the duplex loads, the TSS over lead, I've got a couple loads. I've modified the 12 gauge load to be a little heavier, for both the lead and the TSS weight. So it'll be a 2 ounce load over the 1 5/8. So it'll be heavier. It's about a 1/2 ounce of TSS with 1.5 ounces of lead. So, but yeah, no, the supply right now is horrible. It's the worst it's ever been probably in history. Nobody knows where it's going. There doesn't seem to really be any end in sight. The price increases every single week, it seems like. So I'm waiting on shot that I had purchased back in December. It was held up. And it's kind of funny. I've told this is the craziest. I don't know. It's just the way the world works, I guess. But it was held up in China. It's basically been illegal for them to export tungsten since last February. So everything we've basically gotten is like illegal. But they held up my shot because they literally confiscated like $35 million of cocaine getting shipped out of China. So they were turning all the lids. They were looking at every bin, every package, everything. So they didn't want to risk sending it out until recently. So that's kind of screwed me over. But I've got 9s and 10s coming. So yeah. 8s, please. 8s and 9s. I'll have to find some 8s for sure. But yeah, it's just expensive. It takes 35 days for them to ship it. Like you no longer get the air freight, so it has to come on the slow boat. It takes 35, 40 days or longer.
Wow.
You're triple, if not more, the price than it was this time last year. So you're looking at like north of $100 a pound compared to, maybe 30 or even less before. So
man,
so it's bad, but like I said, those, you might have to break open those 12 gauges again and shoot lead and make it work. So
so let's say we don't have TSS. What would you build a 28 gauge to use? Or what would you caliber wise, starting with a 410? I mean, let's just pretend for a minute TSS is gone, and maybe we're not pretending, but how would you build it? I'm curious.
TSS or tungsten in general?
Well, let's just say tungsten. Well, I guess you do have access to other stuff besides straight TSS.
Yeah, there's a ton of different tungsten alloys that are heavier than lead that would work.
Right.
I just try to go with whatever the heaviest option is, the most dense metal. If it's 15 or if it's 13 or whatever.
Yeah, heavy 13 has been around forever. Worked pretty darn good at the time.
Yeah, for sure. To get your pellet count up and your payload up, I probably wouldn't want to shoot anything lighter than 20 gauge. So
yeah.
But yeah.
There it is. Good thing we didn't get rid of any 12 gauges.
Yeah. Glad I didn't sell that thing when I got back from that hunt last year, John.
Yeah, wrap it up against a tree because you're so frustrated with it, man.
Yeah.
No, definitely keep a hold on to them. But
good excuse to buy a 20
I don't think it's going to be all that bad as far as getting what you need this year, kind of across the board. I know everybody has their favorite companies. Most people have probably dealt with at least 2 or 3 or 4 of them or whatever, but I don't think you're going to see like the real effect. If it keeps going this way, I don't think you're going to really see an effect until next year. Like
I definitely have noticed everybody's prices though have jumped pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, if it continues to be $100+ a pound, I mean, you're looking at, I haven't looked lately at what they are, but it's like, I would assume you'd probably be in like the $110, $120 for a 28 gauge load.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's not good. So,
Well, it just means that people are going to think more before they pull the trigger too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do I want to squeeze off a, $30 load or what?
Crazy.
Yeah. So no, it's,
I
don't know.
They're sporty right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Pick your shot wisely for sure.
Well,
Your
deal,
old
man.
shell's out.
Yeah.
So, no, awesome, man. Thank you so much. John, do you have any other questions or anything that you'd like to hit on while we got Keith with us tonight?
Are you going to any shows at all, Keith? Or do you do that at all? I'm just curious.
I don't really do shows.
Okay.
I'm not really.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I'm not really equipped for that. So.
Gotcha. Not necessary, probably. From what I understand, you're usually too dang busy in the first place.
Yeah, I don't get out much. Yeah.
And I know you well, just because we're in the season, I'm going to step off of turkeys for a minute. You got a heck of a coyote load too. Predator load.
Yeah, I kind of stumbled into a good one, I guess. But yeah, it's wicked. It's really good.
What is your range on that?
4s, definitely 100 yards. I don't think I've ever heard people shooting much further than 100 with 4s or 2s. It's funny, I made a 20 gauge load for a little gun shop in Virginia that was hunting deer, whitetails, out there. And
sure.
20 gauge load of BBs, they were reporting 130 yard kills with those.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. I've had competition coyote hunters, guys in Arizona. One of the first reports I ever got back was a group in Arizona shooting coyotes through, the mesquite brush, different vegetation down there, and just rolling stuff up pretty good with the 4s.
That's awesome.
I didn't know necessarily how tight you could choke it. I was always kind of scared to go much further than full, but they were shooting it through like a 670 Indian Creek.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty crazy, but
it is.
So, I mean, we took a box. We drew for swans this year here in Utah, and on my way out, there was a box where I was just like taking pictures of them in the shop for like a promotion or whatever, just telling people they were in stock. I'm like, I'm going to grab a box of those just in case. My cousin and my brother both tagged out with their swans shooting the 4s, 2 ounces of 4s. My brother shot his at, I think it was definitely further than 90 yards. I range found the edge of the tulies that he shot it in, and it was 90 yards.
Wow. Holy moly.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Stuff's
impressive.
wild. You start going big and you start doing some really crazy things. So, right now, the other thing worth mentioning is I did find about 1,000 pounds of 6 TSS. So it's kind of in that awkward spot where it's a little bigger than you'd probably want ideally for turkey, but it's a little small for the other things like predators and deers and stuff like that. But it'll do pretty much anything you want it to do within reason. So, I'll have number 6 TSS offered in a lot of the different gauges for turkey, and I've got them for predator, and I'll try to load them in pretty much everything just because that's all I really have on hand right now. So
it'll work, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you just shoot them in the wing, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't really need that. You don't really need that great of a pattern. You can just shoot them in the body. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Devastating. That'll be a whole new case of 28 trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding, man. That'd be wild. Sweet. Yeah. Anything else, John?
No, I'm good, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to lay eyes on you. I've been talking to you forever, and I can't thank you enough, Keith. It's been a lot of fun shooting your ammo. Do my best to tell everybody about the very best shot they can have. So.
No, it's been cool seeing you and Jagger and you Tom and all you guys doing all that stuff up there. It's really fun to watch. So
yeah,
you guys are killing it.
I really appreciate it, Keith. Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the product and all the support that you've offered us. And it's been good times. And one of these days, like I said, we're going to have to figure out how to connect and do a hunt together. And it just seems like the right thing to probably do. So when we get offline one of these days, next year or two, we can make that happen. But thanks, man. Appreciate you. John, thanks for co-hosting. This has been a pretty fun series to record with you. Folks, we got we got two more turkey hunting episodes coming up. So we got part 2 which you guys will have already listened to, but we haven't recorded yet. But part 2 with James Harrison that you guys have all heard prior to this. And then we're going to be with Eric from the NWTF and talking a little bit about turkey conservation. And just on the turkey note, even though we're coming towards the end of March, by the time you guys are listening, this is probably about maybe mid to end of March. We are definitely going to be in turkey camp recording in the field episodes. So stay tuned for those 2 because you'll be getting some debriefs. We'll have some characters with us for sure when we get out into camps and our various hunts, our first one being that youth hunt. So thank you everybody for listening. John, Keith, thank you fellas, and we will talk to everybody again soon. See ya.
Thanks, Keith.
Oh, thank you.
Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical. Thanks again, and if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, THOMAS, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors.